So today we're going to dive into a pretty amazing piece of history, a code of conduct, a rule book that has held a totally voluntary community together in, well, pretty much perfect harmony for over 2,500 years. How did they do it? Let's find out.
I mean, it's a fascinating question, isn't it? Seriously, think about it for a second. There's no police force, no army, nothing but a shared set of ideas. How on earth do you create a system so strong that it can guide people voluntarily across centuries and continents? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to unpack. All right, so here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll look at the why behind this ancient rulebook. Then, we'll get into its absolute unshakable foundations, the unbreakable vows. From there, we'll see how it gets into the tiniest details of daily life, and finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create a true community in harmony.
So what's the secret? What is the answer to keeping a community ticking along so smoothly for 2,500 years? Well, the answer lies in a code called the Vinaya.
Now, the Vinaya isn't just some long list of don'ts. It's so much more than that. You should really think of it like an operating system for a spiritual community. It was brilliantly designed to handle conflicts, create a peaceful place to live, and basically free up everyone's mind for the real work, meditation and spiritual growth.
And this wasn't just some accident. The purpose was spelled out right from the beginning. And what's so interesting here is how it mixes the totally practical with the deeply spiritual. I mean, you've got number 3, to control ill-controlled monks. That's pretty down to earth, right? But then you've also got number 9, to establish the true Dhamma, which is all about preserving the core teachings of the Buddha. It's about creating a structure that supports both a peaceful group and an individual's path to enlightenment. It's pretty brilliant.
So just how detailed are we talking here? Well, in the Theravada tradition, which is one of the oldest schools of Buddhism, fully ordained monks, bhikkhus, follow 227 main rules. Now that number covers pretty much everything you can imagine, but right at the heart of it all are 4 rules that are just completely non-negotiable.
Okay, now we're getting to the absolute bedrock of the entire system. These next 4 vows, they aren't just rules. They are the very definition of what it means to be a monk in this tradition. If you break one, you don't just get a slap on the wrist. It means you're out. For good.
The special term for these offenses is parajika, which literally translates to defeat. And that is such a powerful word. It doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you are defeated in the spiritual life. You're no longer considered a part of the monastic community. There are no do-overs.
So these are the 4 bright lines that can absolutely never be crossed. They're there to protect the integrity of the spiritual path itself. You know, guarding against sexual misconduct, theft, violence, and maybe most interestingly, lying about your own spiritual progress. You see, these aren't just about personal morals, they're about keeping the trust and the entire community alive and well.
But, and this is a big but, the Vinaya goes way, way beyond those 4 foundational rules. It weaves its way into every single moment of a monk's day. And when I say thousands, I really mean it. Those 227 rules are just the main categories. They branch out into this incredibly detailed web of instructions that creates a complete, consistent lifestyle, all designed to reduce conflict and, well, maximize mindfulness.
Let's look at a really concrete example. Food. Now, Buddhist monks are not always vegetarian, but the Vinaya is very specific about certain types of meat that are off-limits. Usually, it's because these animals were considered royal or dangerous or just not really appropriate for someone who's renounced worldly life to be eating.
And then you get rules that are just so incredibly specific, they kind of reveal the complex social world of the time. This rule here about getting a bhikkhuni, an ordained nun, to wash a robe, it's not really about laundry. It's about maintaining a proper, respectful relationship between the monks and the nuns and avoiding even the slightest hint of impropriety or taking advantage of someone.
So you've got this massive range of conduct, right? On one end, you have an offense like stealing, which gets you kicked out forever. And then, all the way on the other end, you have something as simple as laughing too loud in a village. That's also a rule break. The consequence is much, much lighter, of course. It just requires you to confess it to another monk, but it just goes to show that no detail of your behavior is considered too small to matter.
So all of these individual rules, they all have a collective purpose. And that purpose is to build a perfectly functioning, harmonious community, which is known as the Sangha.
The key ritual that really holds this community together is the Uposatha ceremony. Twice a month, every single monk in a monastery gets together to hear the entire code of 227 rules recited out loud. It's this communal moment of hitting the reset button, of reaffirming their shared values, and it's a chance to publicly clear the air of any mistakes.
And yeah, this is not just a casual meeting, it's a formal procedure. There are specific duties that have to be done beforehand. You can see right here how the preparation itself reinforces this sense of order and deep respect for the tradition. It's all about creating a sacred space for a sacred purpose.
So ultimately, these rituals are the glue. They're what transform a group of individuals into a real, cohesive unit, all moving in the same direction and all holding each other to the same incredibly high standard. Which, brings us right back to where we started. The entire point of this incredibly detailed system is to support the individual, to strengthen the community, and, in the end, to preserve these core teachings for every generation that follows.
Now, looking at all of these rules, it's so easy to feel a little, overwhelmed. You might be asking yourself, isn't this just incredibly restrictive? Is this whole thing a cage, or is it something else entirely?
And this right here reveals the central paradox of the whole system. The Vinaya isn't a cage. It's actually a framework designed for freedom. By basically automating all the small stuff, what to eat, how to act, how to solve arguments, it liberates the mind from constant distraction. It creates this smooth, predictable environment where the real work, the work of looking inward, can finally begin.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. This 2,500-year-old code was built for monks, sure, but the principle behind it is universal. So, what about you? What rules, written or unwritten, what habits or routines in your own life aren't just restrictions, but are actually the very structures that give you the freedom to focus on what truly matters? Something to chew on.